Hey, it's Nitro RC Nerds here, and this channel's charter has always been, and will always be, helping other newbies such as ourselves in this hobby. I thought I'd take a break from breaking in this Nova RC Roma on my D8T and perhaps give you some tips from the Nitro RC Nerds. I hope if these help one person, then I'm happy. My very first tip is always improve. The day that you become complacent in this hobby is the day that you will no longer have any chance at success. Be it wrenching, driving, whatever. You should always have a very tenacious, no-nonsense approach to this. Yes, it's a hobby. Yes, it's fun, all of that. But a hobby, in my mind, is something that you want to get better at. The way to get better is to seek ways that you can improve. They're not always going to be in front of you. You have to be proactive and go find those ways. As an example here, I am breaking in. I've lost count on how many engines I've broken in. And every time I am very methodical and I think through everything, and I'm nervous as hell, especially for these expensive ass engines. It all begins and ends with durability. No point doing any enhancements to your vehicle until it's durable. Durability, of course, is subjective, and your goal should be decide how you want to drive it and ensure that the vehicle can handle it. So in other words, don't think in terms of, this vehicle can only handle this, so I'm going to leave it as is. Instead, you want to say to yourself, I want to jump this thing 15 in construction sites. Or I want to go fast around an off-road track. But regardless, whatever that is, you build it to do that. So don't let the vehicle dictate what you can and cannot do. Instead, you make the Nitro vehicle do what you want it to do. Durability is first and foremost. Doesn't matter what you do to it. If it can't run, if it's broken, it's a failure. Just for a goof the other day, after I had my Mugen on an off-road track, I took it home and I decided I wanted to weigh it. And then I cleaned it real good and I weighed it again. And you know what? I lost almost 10 ounces of just crap on it after cleaning it. And that was just after one running, because I always clean them after each time out. So if you think about it, if you let it go and you don't keep your vehicles clean, there's much more to it than aesthetics. You could probably accumulate up to 2 pounds of just gunk. And you think about, you've got a vehicle that's 7+ pounds, that's going to make a big difference in your vehicle's overall speed, right? I mean, this is outside of the obvious stuff, such as any sort of binding or friction that can occur in your shock shafts, your pillow balls, your bushings, and all that good stuff. Plus, who doesn't want to have a nice-looking vehicle? When I see someone with a really dirty RC vehicle, the first thing that goes through my mind is they're not taking care of their vehicles. And of course, the actual cleaning agents is up to the individual. These are some of the stuff I use here. I actually like Magnum Force 2, but my hobby shop was out of it. I love the track power. And there's kind of a whole routine I go through, if you will. I recently started using CalGuard. I'm just showing you the prep and shine, but the degreaser is good as well. So there's kind of an order in which you go through stuff, but the gist of this tip is just keep your cars clean. Again, if not for its aesthetics, then for its performance. When you have screws that are thread locked and very, very difficult to get off, you want to use something like this, something like a butane torch, to apply heat that melts off the glue. Sometimes even that doesn't work, even if you use the absolute best tools. I just stripped a screw right here, and the easiest way to get that off, you get yourself a Dremel, little cutting wheel like this, put it right on there, and then there you go. Now this is a widespread issue in this hobby, and I purposely use the word issue because that's what it is. I see it all the time. And I was the same way when I first got into this hobby. Everyone would say, you need to get this or that, and I get it, and I wouldn't even know why. Most of the time, I couldn't even tell the difference for things that I got. You have to have a specific reason to upgrade. Be reactive. So how about I'll walk you through just an example. You buy a car, you and your cousin, let's say, buy a car, and we'll call it Very Cool Car. The stock servos on Very Cool Car are 80 ounces of torque in 17 seconds. And you go online and you ask people, what are some hop-ups that I should get? Hey, we do it all the time. I do it as well, right? And some people are going to tell you, oh, you need aluminum rear hubs. Some people are going to tell you that you need super cool servo, which has 120 ounces of torque. And some people are going to say, oh, you need RPMA arms. So you go ahead and get all that. And total cost is $150. Your cousin, on the other hand, he leaves everything in stock. A week later, he blows out a shock cap. So he goes and he buys him some aluminum shock caps. He then notices that he's got a lot of flex in his steering. So he goes and he buys a carbon top plate. He also decides he wants to lighten his vehicle. He thinks it's a little heavy, and so he gets some Lunsford turnbuckles and lightens it significantly. Same thing, total cost, $150. What's the difference? Your cousin spent $150 on things to fix specific problems that he encountered, and his car is now lighter, faster, and performs to his liking. You, on the other hand, spent the same amount of money, $150, but your car's heavier because of the aluminum rear hubs. And by the way, your cousin is going on 10 gallons now with the stock rear hubs, hasn't had an issue. The servo that you got, which could pull 30 more ounces of torque or 40 more ounces of torque, was also 20% slower than the stock, so you really couldn't even tell a difference. And the RPMA arms that you got, they were binding your suspension. And again, your cousin is 10 gallons on the stock A-arms. He hasn't had any problems. Make sense? I mean, hey, I'm a parts whore. I make no bones about it, but the thing is, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Even if I don't achieve the result, at least I tried it and I knew what I was attempting to do. So last night, I put on some titanium shock shafts on my son's Losi. May sound silly, but you know what? I reduced some weight. Got my scale out, and I knew exactly the amount of weight that I reduced the car by. So the tip here is not to upgrade your vehicles. Quite the contrary. Go off on them. Just have purpose. There are certain items that wear over time, and I found one of them, believe it or not, to be the fuel tank. If you're having issues with your engine, it doesn't seem like it's performing correctly, and you're confident in your tune, and the fuel is good, the plug is good, and all of that, try a little something. When you stop it, put your finger over the stinger, and if it muffles a little bit before it stops, or it doesn't even stop at all, then check out your tank, because it should just shut off immediately. You've got a leak somewhere. I can't tell you how many times I've had an issue only to find out replacing the tank fixed it completely. Well, actually, I can tell you how many times. Probably this number. Yeah, and it's actually to the point to where it's a maintenance item for me now, and I will routinely change tanks probably every gallon and a half, 2 gallons. You'd be surprised at what a difference it really makes. Now, I'll preface all that by saying, ensure you do your due diligence and check all the other stuff first, right? But if you just, are at your wits' end and you get to the point you don't know what else to do, once again, don't forget the fuel tank. If you find yourself to the point where you definitely want to make improvements, but you just don't know where to begin, one area where I think at least you just cannot go wrong is making your car lighter and, of course, stronger. You would be really surprised at the performance improvements you get when you lighten your vehicle. This is one reason that my beloved Lucy 810 is such a badass. When this buggy first came out, everyone was scrambling, to put on a bigger engine, aluminum parts everywhere, do a modification to put a bigger fuel tank on it, all of that. Not me. This engine right here, it's got more than enough power, and it's light. Fuel tank, you know, I could easily mod this, or I could build another vehicle and mod it to have the 125cc tank on it, but I don't want to add that extra weight, not just yet. Now the thing is, you obviously don't want to sacrifice the durability. So you look for things such as carbon fiber parts, which are just as strong. The difference is they break, they don't bend, which in a way is good because I want to know if something's wrong. The great thing is there's so many different ways to reduce weight. Here's a quick example. This right here is really just its practice body and wing, and I'll tell you why. If you look here, we're at 6 pounds, 4.7 ounces. But when it's go time, he's in his official uniform. Why is that? I'll show you why. Just something as small as a body and a wing. Now he's at 6 pounds, 3.05 ounces. And there doesn't have to be a trade-off with this. That's what's so great. You can make it lighter and stronger. And there's so many ways, like I mentioned, you can get creative. You know, as an example, if you're running full down travel, you can remove your droop screws. Right there, you're going to say, wait, there's just all these different ways you can do it and maintain, if not strengthen, its durability. Try it out. Bonus tip. If you ever find yourself in a situation like this where your shock springs are all jumbled up together, bounce them on the ground. Have you ever pulled and pulled on your pull start until your arm hurts or you have blisters on your fingers? I hear that all the time from people. And it happened to me when I first got into this hobby as well, until I learned something. You're wasting your time. When everything is set up correctly on a pull start, it should fire up almost immediately. I'll give you an example. I haven't started this engine, well, I started it yesterday. And it's, right now the temperature here is 65 degrees. Now I just primed this, and I'm going to expect this engine to start in 1 or 2 pulls. Definitely no more than 3. And so my pert here is, if it's not starting relatively easily, then you got a problem. And the best analogy that I give people is, it's like going fishing and just throwing an empty hook in the water. You might catch something, but you're wasting your time. So if it does not start up, like I said, in just a few pulls, then you stop and you begin troubleshooting. One of the best things about this hobby is that you can actually modify your vehicle's behavior. You know, some of the best upgrades are simply the analysis and the testing that you put in to get your vehicle to perform just as you want it for a specific environment. So whether you're bashing or you're racing or doing high-speed runs, I recommend that you experiment with everything. Whether it's shock springs, shock pistons, sway bars, toe blocks, clutch springs, clutch shoes, diff oils, shock oils, tires, pipes, wings, etc. I could go on and on. My point, once again, is setups are invaluable. There is one caveat, however. Unless something is just blatant, don't make changes until you are consistent with the stock settings. Why? Well, how can you tell something if it's better or worse if you don't understand what it is being changed? So right here our Hyper 7 as an example. We just recently refreshed it, right? So we replaced most of the parts, but if you watch the series, you know that really all we did was establish a baseline. Now we begin to learn that baseline and we'll make changes as we deem warranted. And additionally, only make one change at a time. I know it's tough. It's really tough for me. But if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to get lost in the maze of what's working and not working. You can use things, you know, for setup sheets like this right here. Or you can do what I did. If you don't have like a setup sheet, I wrote my own damn computer program to track all the stuff, you know, that we're doing. And as an example, I've been doing some shock testing. And that's what I would recommend. Begin with shocks, but you know, that's just because I think they're very important. But you can see here, so you know, I'm gonna have to track all this stuff because you will get very confused if you don't. So with my son as an example, what I'll do is I'll make changes sometimes without telling him. So if I notice something, even if it's very subtle, I might, spring down his clutch, or I might increase some of the toe out on the front, or whatever. He doesn't know what's happening, and then after his practice or whatnot, I'll ask him, hey, what did you think of this? What did you think of the acceleration or how it turned? And then I'll tell him what I did. But it takes a long time to get comfortable and get that feel down before you can notice a lot of subtle differences. This right here, or maybe my Mugen, are the only two vehicles that, even the smallest difference I can tell. And it's taken a long time to get to that point. But the great thing is I can appreciate the changes, and I can tell if they're working or not working. A lot of people ask why it is we have all these cars, and some we share, but some of them are explicitly mine, and some are explicitly my son Andrew's. The reason for that is simple. It's not that we're being possessive or anything like that. It has to do with setups. He likes his vehicle set up a certain style, and I like mine set up a certain style. And there is no right or wrong way, as long as you stay within the parameters of, what can optimize the vehicle. So as an example, you would rarely, if ever, run toe out on the rear. You can try it, but your car's probably going to run like crap. One of the things that seems to slip by a lot of bashers, and hey, I'm a basher too, is, the setups are not just for racers, they're also for bashers, anybody. So as an example right here, you can see my Savage. When I got it in its street running mode, I got one setup, and then when we're ready for beast mode, we're down with that too. And I promise it's more than just body and tires. It's suspension geometry, roll center. I'm running different clutch setups on it now depending on, which mode it's in. So your options are unlimited. Alright, there are so many more other tips, but we're running on time and I'm even beginning to bore myself. So I'll leave you with this. No matter what you're driving, if it's, from the low-end vehicle to, something very high-end, just have pride in your vehicles. Enjoy this wonderful hobby because it's, it really is a select few, if you think about it, that get the opportunity to experience something like this. Leverage people's knowledge. Take things that you hear always for a grain of salt. Even the stuff I'm telling you, right? I still am just a chump with the camera making videos about toy cars. At the end of the day, though, you're the one who decides how successful you can be in this hobby. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.